much appreciated and really interesting, and you always we appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate it.
The next speaker is Mr. Andrew Craig. He speaks about why justice, media, and international community matter in Ethiopia. Andrew Craig.
Well, I'm going to adjust the microphone here. I think the words of the previous speaker should echo, but we don't need technology echoing what's needless. And what an honor and privilege to join you, particularly after these inspiring words and calls to action of the previous speakers. And in this historic room, to pick up on our keynote speakers' memories that I found fascinating. And I'll try to amplify and hopefully accurately. This is probably the or among the most honored rooms in the U.S. Congress. It's called the Kennedy Caucus Room, named, of course, after our slain president and slain brother, who we heard about. But it's very fitting that Masvin and I believe it was Senator Van Hollen of Maryland thought that this discussion was important enough to be hosted in this historic room. And there are certain lessons I think I'd like to draw in my time from that for further effective action to take the type of things that we're talking about here and bring it to wider audiences. So my dear friend Masvin from the Press Club has given three rather big topics: justice, human rights, and the media. Well, I think it's logical to approach this from a kind of broad view and then drill down to, as best we can, to specifics regarding Ethiopia and the cause, and then in my 10 minutes or so, allotted to think of how to move forward. Now, as part of that, I think I'd like to allow a little back and forth with the audience, because that's one of my continuing themes here. So maybe we'll have time for questions, and certainly afterwards I want to interact with folks. And because as a broad and general matter, all of these institutions, whether it's human rights organizations, legal justice organizations, or the media, they've got their own problems for us as advocates as well as opportunities. And we're going to be effective if we understand what they need, not just our advocacy. So to give a very quick example, the previous speaker, he wrote a book, and he's so modest, he had it, but he didn't hold it up. Now, that's actually, in training in journalism, very accomplished and courageous journalists. But one of the things that they tell authors, don't go on a show and hold up your book because the audience doesn't like it. The author may think, I want it, but they say, if you're a good guest, the host will hold it up and say, get his book, you know. So when he came off and I heard this powerful thing, I said, I want you on my show. You didn't hold up your book here because you're a great guy, but that's important. So it's this kind of interactivity that I'm going to kind of stress. So And please keep the time, because I noticed our very distinguished broadcaster was concise and powerful. And as lesser trained, you just let me know here. So to keep it interactive, among the advocates for Ethiopian human rights and reform, how many of you have been to many of the Senate offices here? Oh, raise your hands. Okay. Probably not everybody, but let me just offer, in the spirit of the interactivity, that I'm not a big shot, at least that I can remember. But I've probably been personally in every one of these Senate offices, in every House office, at least 3 or 4 times. And not as any kind of big shot or donor, but just to go in, drop off some materials, and start the flow of discussions. And the same things, because that's a way to also get invited to the State Department and have interactions. So we have a very distinguished former leader involved in so many of these Ukraine and other human rights activities. Well, the Ukrainian diaspora, which I've gotten to get involved in, they have extremely organized, twice a year, meetings with representatives, Senate staff. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. So there's kind of a view in the whistleblowing and advocacy committee, well, we've got to meet our congressman or senator. And I was at a whistleblower event last year at the House Rayburn building. And some people in the audience who said, why don't you Washington representatives set up more meetings with the senator? And this one man, Tom Devine, kind of a whistleblower attorney, runs a government accountability project. He said to me afterwards, I got all this stuff. He says, I've never met a senator after being 30 years in Washington as an advocate, because they want donations. But there's ways around that. And one is, and you don't even have to come to Washington, and here I'm speaking partly for the cameras, because we have to support the journalists and people taking this to a wider area. But the simple thing is, and we could do it after this, is you find a person, a senator, or better, a congress member from your home area. You go to the office here or my phone, and you find out where is their district office, right where you live, if you're from around the country. And you set up a meeting with the staffer, and here's the way the professionals do. Whatever time you have, 15 minutes or 30 minutes with a staffer, you have one page of who you are and what you want. And hopefully it's not just you, but you represent some larger group. And you talk to the staffer about who you are. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 is telling who you are and what you want them to do. 2, and this is the very important interactive time, is you listen to the reasons why they can't do it or why they need to be persuaded. And then the last third is planning on how to overcome that and have a continuing dialogue. And ultimately, if you're persistent enough and persuasive enough, this reaches the attention of the senator or member of Congress. And to some extent, it's similar with the media. What do they want? Well, they want stories from credible people. And you have to make it easy for them because they're under a lot of pressure. And let me just give an example of the pressure and the opportunity represented by cameras such as we see here. Now, a good friend of mine and Messman, his name is Wayne Manson, and he's an author of 28 books. One is an 800-page book about genocide in Rwanda, where he went to report in the 1990s on it, right after it was occurring. And he sent me a clip. Actually, we collaborated on a lot of things today. And he said, "This is amazing. The Washington Post started a video podcast." By the way, this is too loud here. And he says they've done 179 episodes. And he says they only have 185 subscribers. Now think of that, particularly if you're in the media. Here's the main newspaper here. They've got a whole studio. I went to this place, I couldn't believe it, the site, and sure enough, it's 100, as of Saturday, 185 free subscribers. So they're dying out there. Nobody wants to watch it. Now, I just checked yesterday, it's up to 525 after this story mocking them. But that shows that the media, they need audiences, they need the content. These insights shared here should be all over the place. And in fact, to go to one of our speakers' points, when I was growing up in Arkansas, 5 minutes of the news was required by the Federal Communications Commission to be worldwide news. And as a little kid, my brothers and I, we knew many leaders of Africa. We'd play games on what are the capitals in Africa. But when the Federal Communications Commission made a decision, we'll have entertainment, not news. Nobody needs to know anything. That's a political decision that in effect could be changed or authorized by Congress. And maybe people should say to the FCC, let's get back to that type of thing. But not to wander too far here. In your meetings with staffers or State Department people, and I had to get up, but one of our other speakers is very adept at, Tony Cooley Foster will be here, and he was head of the World Affairs Council for many years, and instrumental in peacekeeping in Ireland and elsewhere around the world. And he works very closely with State Department people, including helping people get visas to teach, schools, and so forth. But all of these are interactive relationships of what people need to do their job and how we can prepare for it and make it easy for them. So I'm going to conclude a little bit here. But one thing, and my friend Mess didn't mention it, but after a career in journalism and law, which is what I bring to this, 15 years ago, I co-founded with some other journalists and retired government affairs people something called the Justice Integrity Project that would look at injustice, primarily in the justice system. But here's where it has cascading ripples that help bring me here. Because you got to think, well, if there's unfairness, who's naming these prosecutors? Who's naming these judges? And who's corrupting them? And often it's massive corruption, money laundering. So that brings finance and why stop at the United States? Let's look internationally. And having just been elected head of something called, an organization called the Citizens Against Political Assassination, the part of the challenge is assassinations where? US, where else, and what resources do we have? So we're all interactive in a web where we're going to get a lot farther if we interact with, whether it's legislators, the media, by understanding what they need. And I can say that the media needs this insight, dramatic tales of courage, but it needs to be packaged in a way that they can handle, because they're under pressure also, and we're going to be a lot better off if we recognize that. So in conclusion, particularly here at the Kennedy Caucus Room, I'm reminded, and forgive me for paraphrasing, but President Kennedy once famously said, everybody should do whatever they can to help make a better world, or at least try. And I'm privileged to be among those trying in such a courageous and insightful fashion as this. Thank you.